99% of retail investors are completely asleep on HBAR. They're still chasing whatever coin is trending on Twitter. Meme plays, vapor promises, projects with zero utility and a loud community. They're in Telegram groups hoping for a pump. While right under their noses, something much bigger is happening. The biggest players in the world, banks, telecom giants, governments, Fortune 500 companies, are making quiet, deliberate moves. Not on the chains you expect. Not on Ethereum. Not on Solana. Not even on Bitcoin. They're building on Hedera. HBAR is not here for the spotlight. It's not a meme. It's not designed to trend. It's designed to work at scale in the real world under pressure with regulation and with institutional-grade expectations. This isn't the crypto you've gotten used to. HBAR is the infrastructure that global institutions are choosing, not for speculation but for deployment. Real use cases, real systems, real-world integration. While influencers argue over which altcoin has the best logo, Dell is testing data integrity solutions on Hedera. While retail waits for the next bull run, DBS Bank is tokenizing assets. While people chase headlines, Korean central banks are piloting CBDCs on Hedera Tech. This is the infrastructure phase of Web3, and HBAR is the scaffolding behind it. And here's the part most people miss. This isn't some new project getting off the ground. This has been building in silence for years. Hedera's transaction volume has exploded not from hype, but from usage. The carbon credit market? Already integrating. Tokenization? Already underway. Enterprise-grade dApps? Already live. The governing council? Already stacked with some of the most respected organizations on the planet. And what's retail doing? Waiting. Waiting for a green candle. Waiting for someone else to validate what's already happening. But this isn't a project you chase after it moons. This is the kind of project you understand early, accumulate smart, and hold while the infrastructure solidifies. Because once the institutions finish building, once the integrations are public, once the narrative catches up, that's when retail shows up. But by then, the signal will be gone. So if you're looking for hype, this video isn't for you. But if you want to understand what the next digital era is actually being built on, and how Hedera is becoming the silent backbone of Web3, then keep watching. Because by the end of this video, you won't just know about HBAR, you'll understand why it's the most overlooked, most underpriced, most institutional-ready network in crypto right now. And if you get value from this breakdown, like the video so it reaches more eyes, drop a comment with your thoughts or questions. Subscribe for more deep dives like this. And share this with someone still sleeping on utility while the future gets built behind their back. Let's get into it. The institutional blueprint. Let's talk about what retail investors keep missing. When most people hear blockchain, they think of volatility, speculation, pump and dump schemes, a space that moves fast, breaks things, and disappears just as quickly. But institutions don't think that way. They don't touch hype. They don't gamble on trends. They build on standards. They invest in infrastructure. And when they move in silence. And that's exactly what's happening on Hedera. Let's start with the governing council. Unlike any other network, Hedera isn't run by anonymous founders or self-interested whales. It's governed by a council of global enterprises, each running a node, each with equal voting power, no single point of failure, and zero backdoor influence. We're talking about Google, IBM, Boeing, Dell, Standard Bank, Shinhan Bank, LG, and more. Not as investors, as operators, as validators, as decision makers. Now ask yourself, what do these giants see that retail doesn't? They're not here for hype. They're not aping into low caps. They're not betting on narratives. They're integrating Hedera into their internal systems. They're running real-world pilots. They're building production-level infrastructure, the kind that becomes invisible once it works, but powers everything behind the scenes. Let's take Dell, for example. This isn't a PR stunt. Dell is actively exploring how Hedera can help verify data in edge computing environments. Machines talking to machines, real-time integrity, tamper-proof logs. That's not a crypto use case. That's infrastructure at the edge of digital transformation. Then there's DBS Bank, one of the largest banks in Southeast Asia. They're not playing around with NFTs. They're working on tokenizing real-world assets, bonds, securities, and property, and using Hedera's architecture for compliance, transparency, and transaction finality. The stuff that retail ignores until it hits the mainstream. And if you think this is limited to private enterprise, think again. The Bank of Korea is testing CBDC infrastructure that involves Hedera's tech stack. This isn't some DeFi side project. This is central bank-level experimentation with digital currency issuance, settlement, and security, and HBAR is in the room. The pattern here is crystal clear if you're paying attention. Real organizations, with real capital, solving real problems, using Hedera under the hood. And yet, retail still thinks adoption means another influencer talking about a coin. They're looking for noise, while institutions are moving in silence. They don't care about the price today. They care about what works at scale. They don't care what YouTubers say. They care what engineers test, what boards approve, and what regulatory frameworks can support. And all of that is happening on Hedera right now. This is stealth accumulation, but it's not accumulation of tokens. It's accumulation of positioning. Institutions aren't chasing the next hype cycle. They're securing their seat at the table of the next digital economy, and they're building that economy on infrastructure like HBAR. If you're still wondering why price hasn't exploded yet, ask yourself this: do foundations move fast? Or do they move deep, wide, and slow until suddenly they're everywhere? That's Hedera, and that's the signal 99% are missing. The carbon market, Hedera's silent revolution. Now let's talk about one of the most quietly powerful use cases being built on Hedera, the real-time carbon market. We've heard it all before. This chain is energy efficient. That protocol is green. Every project slaps sustainable on their landing page. But how many are actually doing anything about the broken carbon market system? Let's be brutally honest, the traditional carbon credit market is a mess. It's slow. It's opaque. It's full of unverifiable claims. And it's dominated by intermediaries who care more about profit than impact. Greenwashing is everywhere. A company can pay to slap a carbon-neutral badge on their site, and no one actually knows if the offsets were real, verifiable, or double-counted. This is a trillion-dollar credibility crisis, and Hedera is quietly solving it. Through projects like Timles, Dovu, Envision Blockchain, and others, Hedera is enabling real-time carbon credit systems that don't just claim transparency, they prove it on-chain end-to-end. Here's what that looks like. Carbon offsets tracked at the source from wind farms, reforestation projects, and industrial processes. Auditable data uploaded to the Hedera network in real time, immutable, time-stamped, tamper-proof. Tokenized carbon credits issued and moved without relying on third-party intermediaries. Smart contracts ensuring that once a credit is claimed or retired, it's done. No double spending, no funny business. This isn't theoretical. These systems are already live, already being piloted, already proving that blockchain doesn't just make carbon markets digital, it makes them trustworthy. And here's why this matters so much. Institutions are under pressure. Regulators, investors, and consumers are demanding ESG compliance. And the traditional methods aren't cutting it. You think a trillion-dollar fund wants to rely on spreadsheets and PDF certificates to prove their sustainability record? They need precision. They need real-time reporting. They need auditable systems that regulators can verify without a 6-month audit process. Hedera is giving them that. And the beauty is, this entire transformation is happening without fanfare. It's not being hyped. It's not being pumped. It's not being tweeted by celebrities. Because the people using this tech don't need hype. They need compliance. They need efficiency. They need truth. And while they're integrating these tools behind closed doors, the average investor is still out here refreshing CoinMarketCap, waiting for some influencer to call the next play. But this is the play if you're paying attention. Because carbon credits are just the beginning. The same principles, real-world assets, on-chain verification, real-time auditability, apply to supply chains, identity, insurance, health data, and global trade. And guess what? Hedera is building there too. So when someone asks, what's HBAR actually used for? You can say this: it's being used to rebuild one of the most broken global markets into something transparent, efficient, and real. And it's doing it before the world realizes it needs it. That's not a narrative. That's a moat. And the institutions? They're already in the water. The volume nobody's watching. Now let's talk numbers. Because here's what doesn't make sense until you see the full picture. BAR's transaction volume is exploding. Hundreds of millions of transactions. Daily. Not weekly. Not monthly. Daily. So here's the question. If Hedera isn't trending on Twitter, if influencers aren't pumping it, if the average retail investor isn't even looking its way, where is all that volume coming from? The answer? Utility. Scale. See, most blockchains scream adoption before it happens. They brag about TPS potential, about scaling solutions, about what could be possible. Hedera? It's already doing it. Silently. Without hype. Without drama. Without influencers needing to sell the story. Let's break this down. In the last few months, Hedera's mainnet has handled transaction loads that rival or exceed some of the biggest networks in the space. And it didn't even make headlines. Because this isn't speculative trading. This isn't bots faking volume. This isn't NFT wash trading or exchange churn. This is real-world throughput, driven by applications you don't see in retail circles. Healthcare data integrity, supply chain event tracking, IoT device communication, tokenized carbon credit flows, micropayments for enterprise APIs. These aren't flashy dApps. They don't have discords or meme contests. They don't beg for engagement. They're quietly running systems in production where every single interaction hits the Hedera ledger. It's not volume for the sake of volume. It's volume with meaning. And that's the difference. Other chains chase transactions to claim growth. Hedera is absorbing transactions because it's doing the work others just talk about. Now here's what's even more important. This kind of adoption doesn't reflect in price, not yet. Because the users aren't speculators. They're not buying HBAR to hold it. They're using it because it's the fuel of a system they've already built into their backend. This is infrastructure-level activity. And while retail waits for the next pump, the next candle, the next thumbnail that says 100x soon, Hedera is logging more transactions than almost every other chain, and doing it with enterprise-level uptime. This is stealth mode at scale. And the market doesn't know how to price it yet, because retail still thinks value comes from hype. But long-term value comes from adoption. It comes from demand that doesn't care about market conditions. It comes from use cases that don't stop when the trend dies. That's the volume we're seeing now. And that's why smart money isn't asking, is it pumping? They're asking, who's building here and why? If you're watching Hedera's transaction volume and wondering when the price will catch up, remember, price chases fundamentals when the crowd catches up. Right now, the crowd is asleep, but the foundation already laid, the pipes already flowing, and the builders already deployed, which means there are only two types of people watching Hedera today. Those who think it hasn't started, and those who realize it's already halfway there. Stealth accumulation, the real signal. Now let's pull it all together. You've seen the enterprise partnerships. You've seen the real-world use cases. You've seen the transaction volume that's happening quietly, without hype. So the question becomes, if all of this is true, why hasn't the price moved? And the answer is the most important signal of all. Because what's happening on Hedera isn't being priced in yet. That's stealth accumulation. But this isn't just about buying tokens. This is about positioning. Strategic, long-term positioning by people and institutions who understand what's coming and want to own the rails before the train starts moving full speed. Think about how this cycle always plays out. First, you get the builders. Then come the integrations. Then come the transactions. Then come the enterprise headlines. Then, and only then, comes retail. Retail always comes last. Because retail needs a headline. Retail needs a pump. Retail needs a reason to believe, but by the time it believes, the opportunity's already repriced. And right now, the opportunity is mispriced. Because while the market watches meme tokens run up and crash overnight, HBAR is quietly building what those tokens will eventually rely on, if they even survive. Stealth accumulation is when institutions secure a position before the value becomes obvious. It's when infrastructure is still under the radar. It's when sentiment is cold, but on-chain activity is hot. And right now, Hedera checks every one of those boxes. Partnerships, growing. Volume, surging. Governance, decentralized at the boardroom level. Utility, already in production. Retail sentiment, disinterested, perfect. That's the signal. When the use case is real but the noise is low, that's when the smart money steps in. They're not tweeting about it. They're not announcing their positions. They're not chasing, they're accumulating. Because they understand something most people don't. The real money isn't made when it's obvious. It's made when it's quiet. It's made when the work is being done, but nobody's watching. And that's what's happening right now in real time on Hedera. So if you're sitting on the sidelines waiting for a breakout, you're missing what the smartest players are already preparing for. Not because HBAR will go to the moon, but because HBAR is becoming the digital concrete that the next internet will be built on. And when that infrastructure becomes critical, it won't matter what Twitter thinks. It won't matter if YouTubers are talking about it. It won't even matter if retail shows up late. Because by then, the foundations will be owned. The rails will be locked. And the opportunity, priced in. So ask yourself, do you want to be surprised when it's everywhere? Or do you want to be positioned before the rest of the world catches on? Don't say you didn't see it coming. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of 99% of people in this space. Because while most are still searching for the next viral coin or chasing echo chambers, you've just seen the bigger picture, and it's not built on hype. It's built on Hedera. Enterprise adoption isn't coming. It's here. Carbon markets aren't a future maybe, they're already live. Transaction volume isn't speculative. It's operational. And the institutions? They're not preparing. They're already in position. HBAR is not just another altcoin. It's infrastructure. It's policy aligned. It's enterprise ready. And most people will only start paying attention when it's already too late, when headlines start breaking, when prices start moving, and when retail is chasing what was already obvious to anyone paying attention. But now you know. So here's what to do. Like this video if it gave you a new perspective. It tells the algorithm this is content that matters, not just noise. Comment below and tell me where you think HBAR is heading next. Or ask your toughest question. I'll read every one. Subscribe for more deep dives that cut through the hype and focus on what's real, scalable, and already in motion. And most importantly, share this. Send it to someone who's still asleep on utility. Still chasing hype. Still unaware that the next internet is already being built, and it's not happening where they think. This isn't financial advice. It's a wake-up call. The world is moving. The infrastructure is settling. And the window to front-run it is almost gone. Make your move before the crowd makes it for you.